Well, that was interesting. I thought I recorded the whole video without pressing record, but it just stopped recording after 20 minutes, so I just need to do the ending again. Okay. Are they finished? Sorry, I've just been trying to make this video for like 3 days, but there's like something going on in the other house, and there's like builders and stuff, and I just couldn't concentrate. Today I'm going to go through with you what I think it's important to know if you've just started to get into the horse world, or if you're already in it but would like to know where you could improve or change your riding routine. These are going to be 4 basic pieces of information that I put together for this video. I'm not gonna talk about them in depth because I would be talking for hours and hours, so I decided to make a bullet point list for this video and make separate videos for each point. The first thing I wanted to say, and this might seem completely obvious and you might already click away, but the first thing I wanted to point out is that horses are animals, and I don't know, I just see people in the horse world forget about it sometimes, and I'd say that this behaviour comes mostly from the instructors, but I'm just talking generally. The instructor's job is, yes, to teach the person to go riding, but also to teach the person how to deal with horses with different mindsets, teach them different approaches, and especially not to just expect from the horse if you haven't got a relationship with the horse. For me, it's very important to have at least some kind of relationship with the horse. Now, I know that some people might say, well, how can I build a relationship with a school horse? Well, at the top of my head, there are 2 ways of getting to know the horse that you're going to ride. They're very easy, and if it's a good horse riding school, then there's going to be time for you to do them. The first one is that you can go and get your horse. You can go and get the horse that you're going to ride, brush the horse, brush the mane, brush the tail, make a little plait in the horse's tail. I always used to do it. Tack them, and just, you know, pat the horse. And the second one is to do 5-10 minutes of groundwork before you hop on the horse. For me, that used to be a very important part of the lesson. Now, I don't know how long the lessons you are gonna do or you do are, but when I was over in Italy, it used to be either an hour or 45 minutes. And in an hour or 45 minutes, you've got plenty of time to warm up your horse, to do some groundwork, and to get to know your horse, not just a whole hour of riding your horse. Which brings me to the second point that I wrote down, which is groundwork. I personally dislike riding schools that don't let you or don't even introduce you to groundwork, because for me, again, it's very important, and it either shows, in my opinion, that the riding instructor is either has poor horsemanship, or they just want to get you on the horse, off the horse, and then where's my money kind of thing. It is very important to get to know the horse that you're about to ride. You can't just expect to go on the horse and the horse to be fine with it. For me, that's not the way to go, especially with new people that are just getting into the horse world. Groundwork is generally done when you're dealing with a green horse, when you want to get to know a horse that you're about to train, when the horse has some kind of unwanted behavior and you want to help get rid of it, and if you want to improve something in the horse's training on the ground before you do it and on the saddle. The other day I saw a video on Facebook of a riding instructor I went for a couple of months, and I didn't like at all how she was how do you say it in English? Lunging her horse, that's it. I didn't like it one bit. She had like a bit in the horse's mouth, and I don't know, I'm gonna talk about it more in the video I'm gonna do about Groundwork, because I think that deserves a whole video, because that's just how you don't lunge a horse, for me. The third point I wanted to share was the very widely known but sometimes unused 20% rule. For the 20% rule, I mean that you, the tack shouldn't weigh over 20% of the horse's weight. Usually I don't see this happening in English riding. That's just my personal experience, because generally they use bigger horses anyway, but in American riding I see the rule being broken a bit more. It's probably because American horses are generally smaller, like the quarter horses, they're not very big, and American tack is a lot heavier than English tack. You can get lighter versions of like saddles and saddle pads, but they're always gonna be heavier than English riding, English tack. The last, but definitely not least, this is very true, the last point I wanted to share was the use or sometimes abuse of certain tools, unnecessary tools. This point might create some arguments, but that's okay, everyone sees things differently. So for unnecessary tools, I mean stuff that we humans use on horses to get results that we could get without the use of these tools. For example, I mean spurs, bits, harsher bits. Well, the use of bits, or like harsher bits than the ones that you could use. Whips and nosebands. I think they're called nosebands, I'm not sure. I can understand why people use some of these, but the majority of the people don't know how to use them properly, or sometimes they get frustrated, and that's where the use becomes abuse, sort of thing. The first one that I said was spurs. Now there are many types of spurs, and some of them are just evil, and other ones are, I think, like for me, spurs are to be used in, for example, dressage, to have a smaller leg movement, just to not having your legs flapping about. And other spurs, I think they're just designed to hurt the horse, which are completely, it's just horrible. Bits are also an unnecessary tool, but most of the times they're required in competitions, so it's always good to desensitize the horse on having a bit in its mouth. Obviously not harsh bits, just, pop it in, out. Some bits are harsher than others, but I see that there's a lot of misinformation about bits in general, and this doesn't help with the use of them. I've seen comments on Instagram and especially YouTube saying that, from people that they say that they start horses with tom thumbs, which is very confusing, and then when they get used to the tom thumb, they change to a milder bit, like a snaffle bit. That's like the opposite of what you should be doing. It's just, it doesn't make sense. The tom thumbs are only to be used, in my opinion, on very, very broke horses, where they're used to carrying themselves in the correct way. And if you want them to pick up their shoulders or to put their heads down, I'm sorry, I'm missing the English terminology here, you just have to do a very small hand movement and then release immediately. It's not something that a green horse should have in their mouth anyway. It's I really completely disagree with that comment, and yeah. The other thing I said were whips. Whips and nosebands. I've recently had bad experience with these, and I'm still kind of upset about them. With whips, I decided not to use them anymore, especially after this place I've been to, because they were completely unnecessary. When the instructor was telling me to whip the horse, which I really didn't like, I was feeling so uncomfortable doing, the horse wasn't responding how it should have. I mean, whips, they're a tool to punish the horse, they're not to encourage the horse. And I don't understand people that still see as a whip as an encouragement tool. For me, it's just a punishment tool, and I don't know. When I used to do natural, I don't know how you call it, natural riding, it was like a Pirelli way of dealing with horses, and we didn't have bits, never kicked the horse or anything. We used to use, I think it was called a very long dressage whip. It was very bendy, and we only used it to wake up some very lazy horses that weren't listening to the leg pressure. And in that case it did help. The other thing I said was, yeah, nosebands. Nosebands I think especially in English riding, it's just, they tighten them so much, and the horse is so restricted, it's uncomfortable to watch. And again, in this place, the horse had a snaffle bit in its mouth, and I had this noseband that was so tight, I didn't want to ride the horse like that, but the instructor didn't. She made me feel, and she made me think that I didn't know how to go horse riding. That's another reason why I left the place. But yeah, the horse just had this noseband closed so tight, and it was uncomfortable to feel when I was pulling on the reins as well. I didn't like it. So yeah, that's definitely another unnecessary tool that people use and abuse quite a lot. If you use a noseband, just don't tighten it up so much. Give the horse a little bit of movement. The nosebands, when they're so tight, when they're tightened up so much, it just makes the bits 10 times more painful and uncomfortable. Why do you need to do that to your horse? I don't get it. It's just evil. I am really uncomfortable on this bed, so I hope you enjoyed this video. That was my final point about nosebands. As I said earlier, well, I am gonna make more videos going more into depth in each point, to try and explain it more to people that are just starting off, and to people that are more interested in seeing different points of view. Again, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye!